Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mixlife. I'm here with Rick,
Yo,
Concrete River, the handsome mustache himself, and we're gonna cover some fucking TPA must-haves and shouldn't-haves, and why the fuck would you have that all at once, right? Um, yeah. All right, TPA has been around for a long time. They've been around basically since the beginning of the industry. They've been a thing forever, as long as Flavor West probably, and a lot of people that are newer probably don't know they started out as the Perfumer's Apprentice, and they were just a perfumer's company, and then they started branching out into flavors, probably a few years before, like it was really like a thing, and then now here we are, right?
well, and then TPA also deserves a huge shout out for being the only company to actually publish their spec list to the public in a readily available place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's when it comes to full disclosure for ingredients and composition, TPA is probably the biggest reason why I was able to even get involved in like deeper DIY in the first place, right? Because if I had to, their availability of spec sheets and what molecules are doing what in the breakdown of each flavor, I would not have been able to break apart what does what without having like a physical sample and knowing what was in it at the same time.
TPA has done more to give mixers just enough knowledge to sound dangerous than any other company.
No, absolutely. But I mean, overall, they're responsible for like the largest, as a company, one of the largest, the amounts of like just physical disclosure for hobbyist chemists and flavorists and perfumists probably in the whole industry. So they get mad credit for their disclosure. And yeah, I mean, that's it. That's like, they're the dudes or the lady dudes. Linda's their main contact rep for, and she's a fantastic woman. She always answers everything we've ever asked, and she's never, as a company, head or face or whatever you want to call it, like she's always been really open about their use in vaping without ever like endorsing us, right?
Yeah.
So they obviously don't endorse the use of TPA flavors, but they make sure that we're aware, which is probably way more than a lot of companies do.
If we just want to so happen to use those flavors, they will still actually work with you on what's in them, which is super awesome.
Absolutely. And they've always been super cool about when things have had to change. Like the whole like strawberry ripe drama that happened a few weeks ago, right after Vegas, right? Everybody panics that strawberry ripe was going to be massively different because it was being produced by another manufacturer. But the blind test came out. There's really no difference, no noticeable difference. I got a sample of it. I didn't notice any difference.
Well, and then if you're also the kind of person relying on strawberry ripe to carry a recipe, you should rethink all sorts of issues in your life.
I'm going to be honest, strawberry ripe is not even on any of my fucking lists today. It doesn't interest me. I can't taste it. I think it's trash. And that's the end of that. So we can move on from strawberry ripe questions.
See, that's going to be the first flavor hot take of the night. Strawberry ripe is useless.
If you want fucking ethyl maltol to fuck up your recipe, you could just use ethyl maltol and get a little sucralose out of the deal. So fuck it, and fuck your strawberry ripe. Look at you, Skittles.
Can't taste that shit. Anybody who has any kind of like maltol sensitivity or any issue tasting strawberries whatsoever, I promise you the first strawberry they're not going to be able to taste is TPA strawberry ripe. It is a fucking ghost if you can't taste strawberries. And even if you can, it's not the best strawberry.
I literally just taste like a tiny bit of green stem. Like it just tastes like a green stem in a bottle. Like, and it's like tiny bit. Otherwise, yeah, it's non-existent.
First scalding hot flavor take of the night. So
yeah.
You're welcome.
There's tons of TPA flavors that I love and I use every fucking day. But strawberry ripe will never be one of them. So I'm sorry, Linda, if you're watching. We still love you, just not your strawberry ripe. It's good in actual food, though.
Yeah, I mean, other people say it's okay. Maybe listen to them. I don't know. It doesn't exist. It's a ghost. It's like Bigfoot for me. I've heard all about it. I've never seen the damn thing. So,
why do they include the green ripe? The green part? That's the ripe, right? That's like the stem and shit, right? When you eat a whole fucking strawberry, that's why they do it. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but yeah, it's a ghost. So moving on from there, we'll start with, I've got a handful of staple fruits, creams, bakeries, and florals. We're not going to do we maybe not be as 100% thorough on their whole catalog as we were with Flavor West, but
they have a huge catalog.
To be truthful, their catalog is fucking enormous. So if you have questions about a specific flavor and I don't get to it, just holler in the chat and we will get to it if I'm knowledgeable. But I'll be honest, I haven't tried all of TPA's flavors because there is a lot of them, a ton of them. And some of them just don't have profiles that I'm interested in, or I already had a flavor that did the job I wanted to, so I had no need to chase down another one. So starting there, what is this? Should I realize Krypton?
Oh yeah, no, Bigfoot's in the chat. I made a Bigfoot joke. It's
it's
unfortunate we all have fake names on the internet. It's great. So you want to start off with fruits?
Fruits is going to be the longest one, so yeah, let's do that first.
I'm a giant fruit, so it works out for me.
For sure. We just go back and forth. You want to pick one? I'll pick one.
Okay.
And then if you pick one that I've already got on my list, I'll just scratch it off.
Okay, so one of my favorite TPA fruits is going to be a little bit controversial. Cherry extract by TPA. I didn't know this existed. Apparently, it's been around for a long time. Every other cherry flavor I've tasted at least kind of tastes like garbage. TPA's cherry extract does not taste like garbage. It is not strong. It's kind of watery. It's kind of candied, but it does not taste like garbage. And that includes like the new TPA, the new cap, sour cherry, whatever. You take it up high enough, it tastes like garbage. Like every other cherry that I've tried tastes at least a little bit like garbage. TPA cherry extract does not.
So I initially didn't agree with you. When I tried it, I think it's because I tried it too low and I was too conservative with it because it's a cherry flavor. And I mean, we know how that goes, right? You go 0.5% too high and it fucking ruins your life and your atomizer. And then you sent me a cherry recipe that was going to go
to chefs.
Yeah. And it was fantastic. It's like a bright, fucking full-bodied cherry flavor, and it was. I mean, I know you used other stuff to back it up, but yeah, it's really useful, and it was strong without being medicinal. Like you were able to get it to be like in the forefront and not medicinal. So I think if I'm going to choose a cherry to work with in the future, it's probably going to be one of the first ones I grab.
Yeah, it's not particularly strong by itself. By itself, you can crank it up and you always be like, oh, where's the rest of the flavor or whatever. But like the important thing is that it doesn't taste like trash. It doesn't have that plasticky like benzaldehyde kind of like gross off-gassing plastic note to it.
Yeah, and it doesn't turn into Robitussin when you take it 0.1% too high.
Yeah. So TPA cherry extract, not trash, which is about as good as you're going to get for a cherry flavor as far as I can tell.
I think for the actual flavor, a lot of my favorite TPA fruits are because of their uses as building blocks. But I think for its actual flavor, I think the TPA pear is probably my very favorite TPA fruit. It can get harsh, like really throat hit harsh if you crank it up over 3 or 4%, but I think it's a really rock solid pear flavor. It's got a little bit of like the kind of granular pear meat to it, but it's still juicy enough. The only problem is that it, like I said, it's really harsh if you push it up too high. So it kind of needs like FA pear or Inawera pear to carry it if you want to get it to the top of the recipe. But I think it's probably the most authentic pear on the market otherwise.
Well, it's also like part of it not being super strong at lower percentages too is it's easy to like sneak into stone fruit or like apple recipes or something for like actual texture. So
yeah, exactly. Like it's nice. Its potency kind of works for it and against it depending. But I still think it's probably the most authentic pear. I really love it, and I'll never stop using it. It's one of the only like TPA flavors that I order in 4 ounces.
I actually kind of like pear candy too, but that's a little bit. It's a little bit sweeter and flatter. It isn't nearly as realistic, but it has like a good like candied pear note to it.
No, I agree with that. I think pear candy is really good too. I think it's just not as useful. Quince is on my list. I'll get to it, Demon. Don't worry.
We will address quince.
We will address the quince. You're next.
I'm gonna go ahead and go for a standby dragon fruit, not because it actually tastes like anything I particularly want to vape by itself, but it is the most useful fruit blender out there. Shout out to triethyl citrate, right? That's like another thing with having that spec list available that you get to like see is like, oh shit, why does dragon fruit work the way it does? You can go back to the spec list and check. So
it has triacetin in it too, doesn't it? Besides the triethyl citrate.
I think that one's just triethyl citrate.
Oh, you're right. It's TPA whipped cream I'm thinking about. But yeah, no, I agree. Dragon fruit, I don't think it tastes. I mean, so the thing is, like, real dragon fruit is a really mild flavored fucking fruit, right? It doesn't really taste like much of anything, anyways. Like actual ripe dragon fruit, it's a pretty mild flavor. So it's kind of hard to define. I kind of like. I mean, when people start pushing it up to 3% or 4% in a recipe, it gets kind of bubblegummy to me.
Yeah,
it's still not a bad flavor, and you can even push it to like fucking 10% probably, and it doesn't get bad. It just gets plasticky a little.
Yeah, Dave has a recipe out there. I think it's like Mother of Dragon's milk that uses it at something crazy like 6 or 8%, and it works. It's just like a very artificial kind of like bright fruit candy flavor up that high, but at lower percentages, even like 0.5% in your fruit recipes, if they have too many sharp edges, their stuff isn't like smashed into each other right, a little bit of dragon fruit can go a really long way.
Yeah, and it's good for just providing body too. Like if your fruit tastes like your berries or whatever that you're trying to work on tastes a little thin or a little not syrupy, like it's just enough of that back end sweetness to really give add a little bit of depth. It's probably the most useful TPA fruit flavor. Yeah, definitely the most useful.
Yeah, so shout out dragon fruit. What's your next one?
My list. So we got the elephant in the room, not the elephant, I guess, but just the least exciting one. All right, the strawberry, TPA strawberry by itself, like not strawberry ripe, but TPA strawberry itself. I don't personally get a lot of strawberry from it, but the candy profile that's in TPA strawberry is a building block for probably, I'd say it's safe to say, any commercial candy recipe that has any kind of berry tone to it at all uses TPA strawberry as a building block. Like it's absolutely critical to anything from blue raspberries to fucking blueberries to strawberry candies to all that stuff. If you really love those stupid red wrapped grandma candy strawberries, like when you crank it up high, it does that pretty well by itself.
Yeah, as somebody who doesn't taste a lot of strawberry, doesn't use a lot of strawberry, TPA strawberry, or I guess Inaware shisha strawberry is like my go-to for somebody who wants a strawberry recipe. Like not having to think about it, knowing that is a good candy strawberry just right off the shelf. I'm into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's just really useful. So for all those people that really love strawberries, I think it's probably the best like building block strawberry there is, and one of the most important candy building blocks in general if you're doing the candy fruit.
Yeah, it's in Apexiphied's Blue Frost Revisited, which is a blue raspberry like slushy vape. And yeah, it's just a great building block for anything kind of fruity and kind of candy at the same time.
For sure. All right, what do you got next?
Oh, I'm going to say TPA Nectarine. Graham was talking about it, and maybe Emily told him about it or something. Anyway, point is I'm stealing this from other people, but I finally picked some up. It is a damn good flavor. It's a very nice, very like peachy flavor that doesn't have a lot of the thinness and harshness issues of the more realistic peaches, but it also doesn't have like too much of a peach rings vibe like the candied peaches. It's a good kind of like in between point for something that almost kind of tastes like stone fruit.
Yeah, definitely. I think a biggest part of that is that and that piggybacks kind of off the next one I have, is the lack of linalool, which is what makes TPA Juicy Peach so brutal to vape. And it's in a lot of other lower end stone fruits. But it doesn't have it. And I think that makes a big difference in the way that it's built. Because it's definitely like a good peach-ish flavor. Yeah, it's good. I like it a lot. And
yeah, it just doesn't have like the glaring issues that a lot of the other like peach flavors have.
And it's not musky.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's not big musky. Like all the peaches are musky to a degree. So my next one is TPA apricot, which tastes absolutely nothing like an apricot, but again, for building the stone fruit vibe, because it really is more like a mild peach than it is an apricot flavor.
Yeah, it's probably fresh for an apricot, but it's a delicious flavor. And yeah, it's more generic stone fruit than like spot on apricot. It's not the apricot that you necessarily want to use for like baked like things or whatever, but it's tasty.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I think it's a really strong building block for uh, for for stone fruits in general. And you can also use it to like build up really mildly, like a plums or what's the other one I was thinking of? That now it's escaping me, so I don't remember.
Cherries,
Yeah, cherries, kind of. Yeah,
sort of. I mean, yeah, but yeah, plum. They're. It's hard to make a plum flavor that isn't an Aware plum, and that's a good like shortcut to doing it.
and Inaware plum has that weird wood note.
Yeah,
That you can't
yeah.
get
It's
around.
more of a like a tobacco plum for like dark, savory vapes.
Yeah, I still like it, but yeah, it's not really like a plum. What do you got next?
I'm gonna go with a flavor that you hate. You go TPA blackberry. Not that it's the most like pleasant single flavor like blackberry. It's a little warm, it's a little woody for that. But what TPA blackberry does really well is if you're working in that kind of like berry spectrum, it's a really good flavor to blend in to give it like some warmth and some body without necessarily just overdosing on liquid amber. Like it's a good like cooking agent for berry flavors in general.
I can see that, and I don't think I ever tried to use it in that application just because I found it kind of offensive in its early stages of testing, right? So I tested it a long time ago, but I think about probably a long time ago, and before I had a lot more experience. And I never revisited it just because my initial experience was so violent, right? It's like when you first start drinking and you chug a bunch of tequila, and then you can't drink tequila for 10 years.
Yeah, like with TPA Blackberry, you gotta like go a little bit slow, ease into it, and just know
Yeah.
that you're not gonna get a full blackberry note out of it, but what you can get is depth and warmth for your berries.
So I tried to use it just like you would use Capella's blackberry.
Yeah,
It didn't go well for me.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I very rarely touch 1% with it, and that's only in very specific like dark jammy recipes.
So my next one isn't maybe super exciting, but it's probably still another one of my favorites, and it's one of the ones I use the most, and that's TPA key lime. I think it's a really, really vibrant, maybe not entirely authentic fresh lime. It's really more candied, me, or at least candy Swedish, right?
Yeah, it runs a little harsh for me.
So I've heard that, but I seriously get like even at like 3% or 4%, I don't get hardly any throat hit from it. Right now, I've got it in this recipe here at 3% with some pear and raspberry, and like no sweetener at all, and it's not harsh to me at all. It is a little bit of an older bottle, but not super old, like 6 months maybe.
It doesn't seem to fade as bad as some of the other citruses, though, which is nice.
And that's a big part of why I like it so much is that if my recipe sits for a while, because I mean I'm notorious for over mixing, right? So I usually have way more bottles mixed than I would get to in a reasonable normal steeping time. So yeah, like it's nice because I can leave it sit on the shelf for a couple of weeks or even a month and come back and the lime is still pretty bold. It's one of my favorite limes. I know some people report it feeling it being a little harsh, but I get no throat hit from it at all.
My next one is also another super harsh flavor, and it's not really even a good flavor, but it's super useful. It's TPA pineapple. It's like tropical battery acid. So if you don't mix it at like 5%, expect it to be like a nice easygoing pineapple. What it is good for is bending around other flavors in small percentages. Because it adds that like kind of like really like bright acidity that you don't get with some of the other tropical fruit flavors. And so I like using it, especially like when I'm abusing the swirl. All hail the swirl. It's like one of those flavors that will poke through a lot of muting and keep some sharp edges on a recipe as it seeps down.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I don't use TPA pineapple as often as I used to, but I think it's a good flavor, and it's not even a bad pineapple if you keep it low. Like under 3%, I think it's still fine.
Yeah, and Burgundy saying in the chat, it's a bully. Yeah, I know it's a bully, but like if you need something in a candy base to actually poke through anything else you're trying to use, like it's a good way to get a pineapple to show up without dragging along some weirder off notes. Like Cap Golden Pineapple disappears in a complex mix. It's a fine flavor, but it just doesn't stand up for itself. A little bit of TPA pineapple can really help like fix a tropical fruit note in a recipe.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the Inawera pineapple, right? Which is another like notoriously not strong pineapple. It doesn't carry itself as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love Inawera pineapple, but it's weak as fuck, right? 7% with an Inawera flavor is annoying as fuck.
Yeah, and DeMillan's over here. Got to mention the tank crackers with these pod systems. Yeah, theoretically it will melt polycarbonate, but
and I've heard that of TPA key lime as well, actually.
Yeah.
But I've never experienced it, mostly because I don't have any that last long enough.
I think there's kind of like an overlap with the flavors that are sort of reported to be tank crackers and like old school flavors like TPA and stuff, because they were around when people were still using a lot of like really heavy polycarbonate tanks, especially like I don't mean to sound xenophobic, but polycarbonate tanks that maybe weren't manufactured to the highest specifications bought off a boat somewhere.
Well, egos, right, were like the thing. Yeah. That was like the pain in the ass nightmare. The cheap ass ego style pens. And then, a company started moving away from that and going to glass when things like the Nautilus Mini and Aspire started releasing their first sub-ohm tanks. As soon as sub-ohm tanks started being a thing, we started seeing a lot less of that talk, just because the polycarbonate didn't hold up as well to the heat exposure anyways, regardless of what kind of juice it was.
Yeah. I did want to talk about TPA Juicy Pineapple. I can't figure that flavor out. It tastes like a more mellow pineapple than their normal pineapple mixed with vanilla swirl for some reason, but not like as fun as that sounds.
Yeah. Well, D-Millen, the other problem is that TPA ripe banana is fucking disgusting and you shouldn't be using it. And why are you using a syringe?
Another spicy take. Here we go.
Hot take. Stop using syringes. I love you, Lewis.
So what's your next?
Is Team Syringe, right?
I don't understand those people. They have some sort of defect. Whatever.
I'm kidding, D-Millen. If you like TPA ripe runts or bananas or whatever, you can get on with your bad self. I can't stand it.
Yeah, shout out to Vape Train Sugarloaf too. I need to mess with that one, but that one's promising for a brighter pineapple. But
it's cool. It's the only pineapple I know though that gets really fucking musky weird if you push it too far. Like my first 2 tries with it where I went too high with it and it was really musky and it almost turned me off the flavor entirely. It's a good pineapple though. I like it. And it stands up in the mix pretty well and it stands up to a steep pretty well.
So what's your next fruit flavor before we get ourselves in trouble?
TPA ketchup sweet. I mean raspberry sweet.
Shit tastes like ketchup, bro.
Right, it smells like ketchup. Like ever since that fucking dude, I can't remember his name, on Reddit pointed out that TPA raspberry sweet smells like ketchup. If you guys are sitting here watching and you have TPA raspberry sweet, go open a bottle and tell me it doesn't smell like ketchup. Come back in the chat and tell me it doesn't smell like ketchup. I'll call you a liar.
I've definitely spread that gospel and been accused of ruining people's raspberry sweet experience.
I like it though, still as a flavor. I think but it's more like a building block. I don't like it as a solo raspberry as much. Now, maybe it's because I can't shake the ketchup thing now, yeah. But I think it's still a really effective building block, especially like if you're trying to brighten something like Harvest Berry.
It also, like, the one weird use case I have for it now is using it behind grapes. I found that that weird ketchup note actually kind of makes grapes a little darker and more realistic without making them musky. So
I can see that.
Pretty much what I use it for at this point.
I like it to layer with other raspberries because there really isn't like an authentic go-to like actual raspberry. Like I love Flavor Art raspberry a lot, We've talked about this on a number of occasions, but it doesn't taste like a fresh raspberry, right? So it helps other raspberry flavors get closer to like fresh raspberry. So I think it's pretty rad.
Yeah, and if you're looking for obnoxious candy raspberry, TPA raspberry does an okay job, but I found that it's surprisingly hard to work with. It gets pretty floral very quickly.
It's harder to work with than Flavorites, I think, but it is a good raspberry. I agree.
So my next one is actually going to be Pomegranate Deluxe because
you beat me to it.
Yeah, it's done really well for like a flavor that a lot of the other pomegranates have pretty serious problems. And if you're looking for like grenadine, which is theoretically just sweetened pomegranate juice, like the good stuff is anyway, Pomegranate Deluxe is the best grenadine flavor. 2-3% works perfectly. Nothing weird or wrong with it. The normal TPA pomegranate is kind of trash. Cap's pomegranate's trash. FA's pomegranate is kind of woody.
It's good, but it's woody. It's got that woody note to it.
Yeah, it's like woody and warm. TPA Pomegranate Deluxe, basically straight grenadine, awesome flavor.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Yeah, now because that was my next one. So I gotta shift fire. Coconut candy. I think that before Flavora coconut, FA coconut, and Flavora sweet coconut existed or were available, like TPA coconut candy has been the king of coconut. A lot of people used coconut extra back in the day, but that shit tastes like hand lotion, even at 0.15% to me. It's just, I don't like it. I don't like coconut extra, and I never have. But coconut candy is forgiving. It's really sweet. It's not an authentic coconut, but I think it's their best coconut and one of the best coconuts on the market.
Yeah, I think with Flavora sweet coconut, it's kind of supplanted it a little bit with me just because it has that like kind of smoother like coconut tone to it. But coconut candy I still reach for occasionally when I need to bend like creamy tropical recipes around. It's really good for that.
Yeah, no, it's outstanding. Like if you're trying to build a pina colada, like that's the only one you need. And it's really it's a little more forgiving than Flavora. So in my opinion, but overall, I tend to agree with you. I use Flavora coconuts more now, but TPA coconut candy was like the king for a long time.
TPA jackfruit is
that's the other next on my list. I bet.
Yeah, delicious. Probably isn't musky enough for real jackfruit. It isn't like quite funky and weird enough to actually be an authentic jackfruit, but for kind of like a pineapple-y tropical mystery flavor that can go up to however many percentage you want to throw out a recipe, it's a really good single fruit note.
Yeah, and on top of that, like it's really good for layering tropical flavors that you want to keep kind of separate, right? So like the pineapple-ish vibe that it has will boost another pineapple, and you could use it to support like a banana or
a mango
or peach.
Yeah.
In any of those, and it will support the pineapple without washing out the rest. So it's really excellent for using in layering other tropical flavors. So as far as tropicals go, I think TPA jackfruit is probably the most useful like layering agent for tropical flavors.
So I'm going to take your next one for you. You were talking about TPA papaya. I think it tastes like a fruit cart at the end of the day, and the sun smells not particularly pleasant, but you enjoy it.
So it does come across as like a overly ripe, right? Like it's a really fucking ripe papaya. But I don't really get like a literal papaya from it. It's like an overly ripe kind of stone fruit in general. But what it does have is it has that candy back end that you can use at a lower percentage, like 1 to 2%, as a base flavoring, right? So you're building like when you're building like a realistic fruit from the ground up, or you're trying to layer it so that it's a more robust, authentic fruit. I think that you can't really. It's hard to go without papaya, and it's also super ultra useful when abused along with our Lord and Savior vanilla swirl.
Praise be.
Praise the swirl. When you use like 2-3% papaya and 3-4% vanilla swirl, what you have is a perfect building block for any tropical haichu flavor. Like you can literally throw fucking anything at it, and it's a stone wall that's invincible. It will not be muted, or pushed away, or pushed down, or forced aside. It's ideal. You can just literally put whatever else the fuck you want on top, and you've got a tropical haichu. Mango, fucking anything. All the weird stuff that's hard to work with, even with all our master the swirl. Like papaya is the building block for that. It's like the fucking goddamn missing link in evolution. And that's the reason I included it. And it's really the only reason I included it was for building that candy base.
Yeah. So I
only have one more after that.
Yeah, we should wrap up pretty quick. I was gonna say honeydew is not necessarily my favorite flavor, but it does show up in a pod system. So
TPA honeydew is a good honeydew flavor, but it's such a fucking beast.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a good honeydew flavor, but it's just a fucking nightmare to blend with other flavors because no matter what you do, that honeydew is going to be on top. Even if it's only 1%, it's just a monster. I think it's a nice honeydew flavor, but
yeah, if you're working on something like a cold honeydew thing in a pod or whatever, just like give up and use TPA honeydew. That's fine. I haven't messed around with TPA's honeydew 2 all that much.
It's similar. It's not as much of a bully. It's less potent by a long shot. I haven't messed around with it enough to be comfortable giving a lot of notes on it, but it seems like a reasonable replacement. But it's because of the flammability issues.
Yeah, but it's definitely a lot less intense, and it's a similar profile.
The last one I have for fruits is quince. TPA quince, which is like basically the bastard child of apple and pear, right?
Yeah, quince is really good for bending around apples and pears and adding something approaching actual like realistic fruit tartness to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And without taking away from like the juicy / wet kind of sensation.
Yeah, by itself, it kind of tastes a little bit banana-ish too, but like that completely disappears when you're using it just in a support role. Like you don't want to evade TPA quince by itself, but it's pretty essential for any kind of bending with apples or pears or anything.
All right. The rest of these lists are a lot shorter, so it shouldn't take us long to get through them. So we're going to do some creams, bakeries, and then a handful of just oddities and additives. Creams or bakeries next?
Let's do creams, and let's start out with something that kind of straddles the line, but is definitely kind of more of a fruit that we should have mentioned. TPA's banana cream. Did we talk about that already?
No, I switched it like right at the end because I was going to put it in with the fruits, but yeah, I treat it more like a cream than I do a banana.
TPA's banana cream isn't nearly as obnoxious as LA's banana cream. It isn't quite as runty, although it does still have that kind of runty banana thing to it. But it's far enough back. Like it isn't even necessarily banana cream. It's more like a creamy fake banana flavor that can help to bind together a lot of like tropical like fruits and all that stuff. Like it's another like really interesting utility flavor if you can't get your recipe to come together the right way.
Just happened.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, I don't know. Never mind. Sorry, my thing just went weird for a minute. I thought we dropped a call again.
Oh, just all sorts of technical difficulties.
No, I agree with you. I don't have anything to really add to banana cream. You pretty much hit all the points. It's super useful, and I like it to build other bananas on.
Yeah, you can use it to build bananas. I've had really good results using it to fill out mango flavors. It's not going to really be noticeable if you put it up against anything too bright, which is good, but it's like a creamy, vaguely fruity kind of thing that backs other brighter fruit up very well.
We can get the great conspirator out of the way first. TPA's VBIC. It was like for a long time, it was like the unchallenged champion of vanilla bean ice creams, right? For a long time, and I never agreed with that, and I still don't. It is not a bad vanilla flavor, but it is way too buttery for me to taste anything like ice cream. And I mean, then there's the pepper people.
It tastes like black pepper. TPA's VBIC is trash, and anybody who likes it's trash too.
Right. I mean, I like it okay, I guess, but it tastes more like butter to me, and not vanilla bean ice cream.
Yeah, it's super buttery, and if you have any like issue with tasting black pepper, it's
in vanilla.
super peppery.
And the same goes for their custard, right? Their custard's decent. It's still too buttery for me and not as eggy as Capella's or Inawaris or any of the other custards.
And it doesn't have as pronounced of a pepper problem, but if you do taste black pepper from TPA VBIC, you'll taste some of it in their custard as well.
Yeah. I don't dislike TPA VBIC. I just don't like it for its name, right? I don't like it as a VBIC. I don't think it tastes like vanilla bean ice cream. It's buttery and whatever. Just like butter to me.
Yeah, and Burgundy and Pudding in the chat, they both love TPA VBIC. I stand by what I said. You're both trash, and I hate you both. So,
Alfred Pudding, your little mustache guy, cartoon face is cute, but you're wrong.
My culture is not a costume, bro.
Exactly. Show us the real mustache, Alfred, or get the fuck out. But no, yeah, I don't know. I just it's whatever. I don't think it's that great. A lot of people love it, and that's cool. But I think it's kind of meh otherwise, right? Liquid Barn's vanilla bean ice cream, Flavor West vanilla bean ice cream, like whatever. I like they're way better. I think TPA is just
yeah. Liquid Barn, I still get a little bit of black pepper. It's not as pronounced, but it is just as rich. It's also a little bit like less butter heavy and more like buttery egg heavy, which seems slightly better. But
yeah, but it's a vanilla bean ice cream. Like I don't want butter and eggs in my fucking vanilla ice cream. You know what I mean? Like that's why I like Flavor West better.
Yeah.
Flavor West is lacking in body, but you know, whatever. It's like a great VBIC debate. We could probably have a whole show just about that.
So cream, TPA whipped cream, super useful flavor, mostly for the triacidin.
But it's not really a cream flavor to me.
It doesn't taste like much of anything except smooth. It tastes smooth.
It just washes everything out.
Yeah.
Especially if you push it up real high, like it's super useful, and I think it's probably one of the most useful, like creams or whatever. I don't know. It's not that like not flavored, but like but it's really good for blending, especially when you want to just like smash stuff together and force it to merge. Dairy milk. What do you think about it? Have you used much dairy milk? Dairy?
I have it, and I've literally never cracked it open.
It's really not bad. So it's got a bit of that kind of malty funkiness like you get from I'm trying to think of another cream that you would probably think about that. Like when you push
it's like the Vape Train milkshake base or Milk Fresh or whatever.
Yeah, like but it's really thin. Like it's a super thin cream. Like actual milk, right? It doesn't have a lot of body. Yeah, I could see a little bit of that kind of powdered milk vibe. Like if you're using powdered milk to bake with. Or if you were really poor growing up and you had like the government milk. Like it's like skim milk, but it's a little malty.
Yeah, it's just like I've never, like in theory, the idea of, hey, let's add some funk back into a cream sounds good, but I've never been at that point in my mixing career.
I like it. In the old days, it was like the way to build milkshakes, right? Because there was no way to get malt besides TPA dairy milk and TPA malted milk. Like those were the only two options you had. And they're useful for that. They're not as popular now. Also, if you tried the Vape Train fresh milk or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, I think. It's pretty similar.
Yeah, and like, and that one isn't really thin, so I don't know. Like
no,
it's one of those flavors.
It's thinner than Vape Trains for sure, but it's
like it may be one of those kind of flavors that like has sort of outlived some of its usefulness for some of the other options out there now.
No, exactly. That's exactly it, right? TPA dairy milk was really good for its time, and it was like a keystone of mixing for a long time, but it's kind of gone by the wayside. The last cream I have besides our Lord Almighty is cheesecake graham crust. I don't get a lot of crust from cheesecake graham crust, but it's a pretty good like cheesecake / cream base.
Yeah, it's again, like if you want to talk about malty, like it's relatively thick, it's a little bit rich, super useful flavor for like making like thicker creams, especially if you're going to be doing like anything super milkshakey or anything like that. It's fine, but I just have kind of gravitated away from it. I want to say, like, I don't find myself reaching for it much anymore, and I don't have a good excuse why.
I like it for its density and for its lack of flavor. It can get a little funky, but it's not a strong flavor. But it's good. It's good to add density. I feel like that's like its primary purpose in the world now.
Yeah.
Just because there's other ways, there's other better ways to build a cheesecake now.
Yeah, I mean, it's still nice and thick, and it's still unobtrusive enough at like 1% behind other creams that you won't be able to pick it out, but you will be able to benefit from feeling the extra like thickness from it. So it's still a useful additive.
For sure. All right. So our Lord and Savior, Vanilla Swirl. I don't know how many times we've covered Vanilla Swirl on this show.
Praise the swirl. The swirl is all.
It's probably the most abused vanilla in my arsenal besides just straight vanillin.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I don't know. It's good. All right. So like you can do almost anything with it. Like you can build it into a custard. You can build it into a candy. You can use it to hide fucky bad notes in a recipe. You can use it as a sweetener. It's got a weird kind of waxiness to it when you push it up real high.
That you can use in candy recipes. And one of my favorite things to use vanilla swirl for. So like some of my favorite recipes use a whole lot of force muting, which is just like using vanilla swirl to basically give you like a nice thick band of flavor and then cranking the stuff up around it to kind of work with that sort of built-in force muting. And I find like the recipes done like that are like super satisfying and accessible. And so like I abuse the hell out of vanilla swirl.
Yeah, I know exactly. And that's really it. Like when you take flavors that we use way too high on the regular, Yakima hops, pink guava, elderflower, and a bunch of other offensive flavors that people shouldn't probably vape at 3% or 4%. Vanilla swirl can tame all things without muting them into the ground. It has like a really happy medium because you can build a sweet body. And like that, like you said, the band of flavor, right? You can create this sort of like this base that you can put literally fucking anything into, and it comes out good.
Like you can do really big, crazy, intense flavors, and then kind of coast on vanilla swirl to make it actually pleasant to vape. It's like a fucking superpower. It's amazing shit.
It's good stuff. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at the spec sheet because I don't want to ruin it in my life.
You don't want to peek inside that black box of mystery and magic?
No, I don't. I want it to stay magical. I want it to stay magic forever.
So the thing about vanilla swirl, though, is you can't kind of half-ass vanilla. Well, I mean, you can half-ass vanilla swirl, but like if you are going to be using it, be aware that it does do that. It does mute. That's kind of part of the point of using vanilla swirl. So like if you're going to be going into the vanilla swirl thing, you got to go kind of whole hog.
Yeah, it's not that useful like in the additive range. 0.5% or 1% is not going to get you very far. But once you start pushing it past 2% and weird, it's the way to be, man. He muted us. All right, so I guess we can be
just lean into the heresy here. You know what I'm saying? No, seriously, vanilla swirl is one of the things that taught me how to mix recipes that other people like. For better or worse, I love vanilla swirl, and I love what it does with big, dumb recipes. It's great.
I think there's something to be said for using it to simplify your life too. You can push flavors up to get complexity out of them without having to build a complex recipe. Right? You can get. I mean, when we talk about density in a recipe, right? When you start, the flavor or the nuances of what you taste in a flavor change depending on how much you use. And when you use a whole ton of it to the point where it's like offensive, and then and then you mute it back down, you keep some of that extra nuance, right? You get all those extra weird characteristics that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, I think vanilla swirl kind of betrays like some of my own personal mixing style. Like I know there's a lot of people who are into like crafting, like, and I've done it before too. I mean, maybe not as well as they do, but like there's something to be said about like carefully layering recipes and all that other shit. But like vanilla swirl just annihilates that, and it gives you just like this big cohesive chunk of flavor that hopefully picks up the high notes of what you threw it at.
And it can carry almost anything. It can carry bakeries and candies and fruits, and then it carries all the things. It's like the way they use vanilla in in the food industry, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this fucking soda sucks. Put some vanilla in it. Problem solved.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, like, the vanilla doesn't even necessarily stick out so much. Like, you don't taste something with vanilla swirl and be like, oh shit, that's a vanilla flavor. Like, it's just that like weird kind of like blending, force muting agent nonsense, wonderful stuff.
That's how I fooled D Millen into liking vanilla swirl. Because it was a tropical recipe, and it was a tropical rum like smoothie, right? But the rum, I pushed FA rum to like some kind of offensive level, right? Plus guanabana and mango, both again pushed too high, right? And then I just used the swirl and whipped cream combo to like just smash it back in and make it good again.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely something that you said for like hyper representation, like nailing every single note and all that. But like at the end of the day, when you want it like good to vape, you add vanilla swirl.
Yep, it works. All right. Now that vanilla swirl has consumed like 10 minutes of our
all hail the swirl.
1/6 of our entire episode of TPA. We should just do a show about vanilla swirl.
Just all of the ritual abuses of vanilla swirl. It's like the Stations of the Cross. How many different ways can you fuck a recipe up with vanilla swirl?
All right, so let's move on to bakeries. TPA doesn't have a whole ton of really fantastic bakeries that I use all the time. They have some kind of hidden gems here and there, but overall, I think my very favorite TPA bakery is probably banana nut bread.
Yeah, that is probably one of the best flavors out there, honestly, in terms of like vapability and also being fairly accurate at the same time.
And single flavor, right? It tastes like fucking legit banana bread. I don't get a lot of nut in it, but the banana bread vibe is fantastic. It's got a good, dense, moist, like cake body bread. The banana is outstanding and not runty or weird. It's just fucking good, right? Banana nut bread. It's like classic. And you can use it in a mix with other flavors. Like you add some fucking peanut butter, some chocolate, some other whatever. And it still stands up well enough while allowing other flavors to show up.
Yeah, it's also surprisingly good at lower percentages back behind tobaccos, too. That's one of my favorite things to do with banana nut bread.
Yeah, how did I never think about that?
Yeah.
Banana nut bread and fucking tobacco. That's a fucking genius idea.
TPA Western and like the new Western and TPA banana nut bread, really good, really cheap tobacco.
Yeah, I mean banana nut bread, but like, and it was probably like the first thing that I experienced that was as close as I could get to a fucking one shot, right? Back in the day, like it's fantastic just by itself.
Do you find it harsh? We had a question in the chat. I don't think it's particularly harsh. I mean, it's definitely, it can get a little dry at high percentages, but
yeah, I've never really. I mean, at 5% by itself, it's plenty strong enough to carry itself in a like a single flavor. Maybe 7%. I don't think I recall ever pushing it high enough for it to feel harsh. A little dry at high percentages, but
yeah, I wouldn't call it like unduly harsh for any kind of bakery.
No, I don't feel like it is at all. I think it's just fucking fantastic. Overall, it's like a complete flavor. Probably one of the most complete flavors on the market as a single flavor flavor. It's amazing.
Yeah.
TPA apple pie. I think that it's pretty similar to Capella's apple pie in that it's really just a apple filling, right? I don't get a lot of crust out of it or anything else, but I get a lot of apple, like cooked apple and brown sugar and a bit of cinnamon. I think it's just a pretty good like apple filling flavor. It's rock solid. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's probably interchangeable with Capella's apple pie. I think they're pretty close or similar. It's not interchangeable with Flavora's apple filling, but it's pretty reasonably good.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. I don't use a lot of TPA bakeries.
I don't use a ton of them either, but there aren't really that many that I think are accessible or useful.
You were saying that their cookies are trash. I haven't even tried them.
I don't like any of their cookies. They're just weird, dry, gross nonsense. Graham Cracker Clear is another bakery-ish flavor that's I think is ultra useful. It's one of the only graham crackers that doesn't have a weird cinnamon thing to it going on.
It doesn't have as much texture as Flavor West graham crackers. So if you're looking for crispy, that's probably better, but like it's a good kind of generic like mystery bakery booster to sneak into things. It's a good flavor for bending, like a lot of the TPA stuff.
Yeah, and if you push it a little higher, like you can get kind of like that pressed cracker crust, like graham cracker crust, but more like pressed graham cracker like crumble than it is like actual graham cracker.
Yeah, it always feels a little bit soggy to me. Not like soggy in a bad way or whatever, but it just doesn't necessarily like get the crisp edges on it.
No, definitely. And then I guess toasted almond kind of fits in the bakery profile a little bit. It's all right. Like it's like the Castle Long thing, right? Everybody fucking loved that stuff.
I think their toasted almond tastes a little chemical. I don't know. I'm not the
Yeah.
biggest fan.
I get that, and it has to be like balanced with some weird creams or something to kind of take the edges off. But it was the only other bakery that I could really think of from TPA, or bakery-ish flavor that I could think of from TPA that I actually used. I agree. It's astringent, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's kind of astringent, right? But
yeah, it's a little hard to work around. I think I had it in one of Winstead's tobacco recipes, and it was used well there because it was tobacco. But like, I haven't been able to find a use for it outside of a tobacco that it doesn't really stand out like a sore thumb.
FCAM asked about pie crust. So I think the TPA pie crust tastes like burnt asshole. Personally, if I were to use a pie crust, I would use Flavor West's. I don't like TPAs at all. Some people like it and they think it's a good, decent like pie crust thing, but it just tastes burnt to me at any percentage, even at like less than a half or quarter of percent. It just tastes burnt to me. I don't know if you would use it at all.
Yeah, that's one of those things I tried once and was like, nope.
It's burnt to me. I don't think it's good at all.
It's I like Flavor West more. Like, it's hard to kind of recommend when there's better pie crust-ish flavors like FA's apple pie and Flavor West pie crust.
Absolutely. Acetylpyrazine, Indy's best, yeah. It's a useful flavor. Can kind of go the way of corn chips if you are not very careful with it, but it can add a nice like nutty tone to bakeries or tobaccos. It's pretty useful.
Yeah, that's the other thing about TPA is like they don't come up with a bunch of fancy bullshit for their additives. They actually tell you what the additive is. So shout out to TPA.
Yeah, acetylpyrazine, ethyl maltol. You know, they're sweet. The only thing that's kind of cloying is that their sweetener is sucralose, ethyl maltol, and water, which means it has its own uses, but it's different. Like when it was released as sweetener, it was intended as a beverage sweetener.
I mostly use TPA sweetener when I need to knock the edges off something and I don't want to use vanilla swirl. Basically, like cocktail profiles and all that need to be toned down a little bit and sweetened up. I'll use TPA sweetener. That's pretty much my use case for it.
It's kind of like when you need to mute something that you don't want to use vanilla swirl for, which I realize is rare, but like brighter citruses or beverages that I don't want vanilla swirl to thicken up too much. Ethyl maltol or sweetener is my way to go. I don't like Cap Super Sweet because of the additives, and because the citric acid fucking wrecks my coils.
Yeah, so TPA sweetener, yeah, it's one of those things. It's a godsend when you actually need it, but you can build something similar from scratch. I just get lazy and add TPA sweetener.
My list is actually bigger than the time we have left, so let's cut it down to. I'll just cut the florals out because it's really just honeysuckle and cherry blossom. I've covered them enough on this show already.
I got two more that I could give a quick shout out to.
I got three, but they're all relatively quick. I don't have a lot to talk about.
If you're gonna get a TPA peanut butter, don't fuck around with TPA peanut butter. It disappears and falls apart. TPA DX peanut butter is the one to get. I think it may have been Emily. It may have been somebody else. Somebody else told me that, and I didn't believe them. And then I got TPA DX peanut butter. That's really solid. If you need a peanut butter, that's a pretty good single flavor solution.
I agree. Regular TPA peanut butter is a good peanut butter, but it just doesn't last. And it gets really muddy really fast when you're trying to blend other flavors with it. It's a fine peanut butter by itself, but only for like a day.
TFA Smooth is basically just triacidin.
It's basically just getting whipped cream.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy Smooth if you want to, but it's just triacidin. And I don't think it has anything else in it that I remember. There probably is something in it that I'm just not remembering, but But yeah, it's basically just tricidin. You can use TPA whipped cream, which is basically exactly the same thing, but it tastes better.
Yeah, in general, I find that depending on the profile, I'd rather like kind of mute and smooth stuff out with either the whipped cream or like if it's a fruit profile, I'd rather just use dragon fruit.
Yeah, exactly. TPA Whorehound. Somebody asked about Whorehound in the chat earlier. I can't remember whom, but
Fan service.
I think it was FCAM, but I'm not 100% sure. So TPA Whorehound is a pretty cool flavor. It's kind of a weird like herbal root beer with a cooling agent on top of it. Really less on the root beer and more on the cough drop though. It's kind of medicinal and mentholy. I think it's a really cool flavor, but it's pretty weird and not a lot of people like it.
But if you're a fan of old-fashioned Whorehound candies, it is very accurate. It is totally worth picking up if you are a Whorehound.
And if you're trying to clone Fisherman's Friend cough drops. Remember those?
Yeah.
Like it's like legit the only way to do it.
Just vape some TPA Whorehound and take a couple like handfuls of Dramamine and see what happens.
Yeah, drip some WS-23 in there. You can rub a little around the inside of your nostril and on your gums. TPA Red Oak, just for its additive qualities, right? It's super useful in custards, tobaccos, and even like trying to add like a grassy hay. I don't really get like an oak flavor from it at all.
I don't know. I find like it has some char to it. I like
but only
it.
It's maybe it's just as less significant than a lot of the others.
Yeah, like I like it quite a bit more than Oak Barrel because it isn't as astringent. Not Oak Barrel. FA's Oakwood, because FA's Oakwood tastes a little astringent to me. Red Oak doesn't seem to dry things out as bad, and if you're using it with the cream, like it does have that kind of like coconutty tone to it, which actually helps to boost up creams quite a bit too. So if you want like any kind of like charred or like bourbon cream or anything like that, you can use Red Oak. It actually works really well.
I mean, it's just a fun flavor to play with. I think it's probably one of my favorite, like, just weird things to throw into something. Yeah. And then final shout out to TPA Wintergreen. So we're gonna end on a high note.
Yeah, it's stronger than Flavor West Wintergreen, which is good.
And I think it's just a really clean wintergreen, and you can push it up high if you really want it to blast your face off, and it doesn't go bad or grassy or weird and green, like the bad vegetal green or whatever.
Can we end on a dirty note? Actually,
okay. We got 3 minutes left, so
okay. Ending on a dirty note. I have really come to appreciate TPA's Western tobacco. Most of the TPA tobaccos, if they're still around, are like kind of fucking gnarly. The reformulated version of TPA Western is a little leathery, a little nutty, maybe just a tiny bit dirty. It is an excellent cheap tobacco.
No, I agree with you, and I kind of sat on it for a while just because Flavor tobaccos happened last year, right?
Yeah.
And I got super pumped about them. But TPA Western was revisited. I think it was reformulated last year. The old Western was terrible. It was like nasty burning paper in an ashtray, right? It was disgusting. But the new TPA Western that was reformulated in the last year-ish it's really good. I think it's really classic tobacco. It's not too dry, but not too moist or whatever. I think it's rock solid. It's a good building block. I think it's got a lot of potential. And I don't like their RY4 double. Somebody mentioned their RY4 double, and I don't care for it.
RY4 double is dirty caramel, but also kind of harsh, which is fine. It's used in a lot of recipes. Their RY4 original is trash. Their RY4 Asian is super interesting. It's a little caramely. It has almost like a cardamom kind of note to it, and I want to play around with that one a lot more, but I've been a big fan of their RY4 Asian so far.
I don't think I have their RY4 Asian. I'm not sure I even ever.
Yeah, it's good shit. I'm
not sure I ever did get it because I wasn't really into RY4s. I liked straightforward tobaccos, and I didn't get into RY4s until way later.
Yeah, their RY4 Asian, it's relatively, I guess, new to Bull City flavors, which is where I buy 98% of my flavors. So I picked that up, wasn't expecting much, but I was really pleasantly surprised. So that one's going to be fun playing with spiced tobaccos that don't just taste like tabby, like grassy ash.
Nice. Yeah. I was just trying to build an RY4 out of Oriental the other day because somebody asked me about it.
Yeah, that would have been a good. Yeah, that would have been
that might be a good idea for me to revisit then.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think the Jungle Flavors RY4 double is the only good RY4 right now. like flat out RY4. Soho is really good, but it's more caramel, less tobacco. I think Jungle Flavors RY4 is pretty solid.
Jungle Flavors RY4 isn't that one taste like coffee?
I don't get a coffee. I get like a faint kind of coffee ground out of it, but there's still like a plenty of caramel, and I think the tobacco note in it is better than on TPAs.
Oh no, I was thinking about Flavor Express. Flavor Express RY4 tastes like coffee.
Maybe I don't have Flavor Expresses.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't get it from Jungle Flavors too much. I like their RY4.
Yeah, Jungle Flavors RY4 double is a better RY4 double than TPA's RY4 double.
By a mile. All right, well, that wraps it up for our TPA showdown. What do you want to do next week? Do you want to do cap or FA?
Let's do cap. Sure.
All right, so next week we'll do Capella. Come back next week, we'll do Capella. And then we won't be doing a show Christmas week, the week of Christmas. I won't be available because I'm working late that day. So we'll do the 18th or the 19th, but then we won't be doing a show the 26th.
That works for me. I would also not be able to do a show, so not doing one
in fact, I think I may have to take 2 weeks. I'm not sure because my son's going to be in town. But I'll see what I can work around. But we'll do Capella next week for sure, and then we may be taking a short break for the holidays. So come back next week. We'll see you then. Cheers.
Peace.